Good evening, everybody. This is Patrick Irwin, principal of Lincoln High School, and I welcome you to our optional enrollment open house. I'm joined this evening by Jennifer Brown, who's our 9th grade administrator, and Mr. Kevin Zamira, who is the dean of the school, and he's practicing to be a principal, so hopefully next year he'll be a principal in Tacoma School District. We're here tonight to talk to you about a few things about Lincoln High School and hope that you make an informed choice whether Lincoln or other schools are the best choice for your student for the coming year. At this point, we're going to start with the PowerPoint slides, and this is being recorded, so if you miss any of this or if you have to leave, you can come back and watch it online. So the first slide, I just want to comment for a moment. Last year was a remarkable year for all of us. Remarkable in good ways and in bad, but remarkable because of the resilience our students showed. So this is a picture of last year's graduating class, and we had our graduation in an absolute downpour at Mount Tahoma High School. But it was really a glorious day because these students persevered, and many of them are off in college doing very well right now, and others are in the workforce. And it was just a really great accomplishment by the class of 2021. So tonight we're going to cover the following. We're going to talk about academics, and that should always be the greatest priority for you when choosing a school for your child. To go hand in hand with that, there's school culture and climate, because if the academics are great but the culture is not right, your student's not going to be able to learn. We're going to talk about facilities. Not that that's the most important thing, but it adds kind of a creative spin to a school, and all the schools have interesting facilities, and we'll talk about ours tonight. Then we'll talk about athletics, again, another facet of high school, which can be incredibly important for some people, and it brings a lot of joy and energy to a school. We'll talk about specialty programs, and then we'll talk about what makes Lincoln different than the other high schools. And at the end, I'll answer any questions you have, and you can put those questions in the chat as you go along, and Ms. Brown will be reading those to us later. Now, as you see, for housekeeping purposes, we are recording. As a result, we cannot see you. You can see me at the beginning and you can hear me, but we cannot see you, and it's not an interactive experience. We're not talking back and forth. And as I said, you'll put questions in the chat and then we'll address your questions at the end. This is information from the school district regarding choice enrollment, and this is for non-neighborhood students only. So if you live in the Lincoln neighborhood and you don't make a choice otherwise, you'll come to Lincoln next year. If you live in the Lincoln neighborhood and you decide to look for another school, you would have to get your application in by January 21st, 2022. Students living outside of Tacoma Public School boundaries have a different process. So you'd be working with enrollment services, and if you would like to come here and if we have room, we would accept you. So again, these are very important pieces of information. So if you live in the Lincoln district and you want to come to Lincoln, you're good. It's always good to call the school and check and make sure, and you can also ask your middle school what your feeder high school should be, and our counselors will be coming out and making visits. And then again, the application is due by January 21st. Okay, so academics. I can talk forever about this, but I'm just going to focus on a few key things. One of the most important things is that every student prepare themselves for life after high school. That is what it's all about. We're not here for you just to be successful in school. We want you to transition to college, post-secondary institutions such as vocational schools, community colleges, trade schools, or the workforce, or the military. We want you to be prepared. And the best way to do that is to work really hard in high school and take an AP class. So AP stands for Advanced Placement, and it is the gold standard in terms of what people aspire to do in high school. They want to take AP classes and pass them. So in other words, it's college level work at the high school. So we expect every student to take AP classes here at Lincoln. Those classes run the range from AP Human Geography, which can occur in 9th grade, to AP World History in 10th grade, to AP Calculus, AP Biology, AP Psychology, which is a really cool class to take, understanding how the human brain works and where our emotions come from, and many, many other classes. So it covers the gamut, again, of psychology to history to language arts or English, to math, to science, and I'm sure there's some that I'm forgetting, but foreign language or world language. So we have some really great opportunities there. We have more students take AP classes at Lincoln than any other high school in the city, and we have more AP offerings than any other high school in the city. So if you want a rich array of opportunities for your students to challenge themselves, Lincoln is a school for you. Now next, I know people will say this, but we really do have the best teachers in the city. That has been borne out by having one of our teachers win the State Teacher of the Year Award, and he was a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year Award. We have many other teachers who have won many recognitions, emerging educators for national organizations. So they're really, honestly, the best. And we have partnerships with the universities to bring in the very best people into our schools. It's just a fantastic collection of people. I have been here for 18 years as principal, and I have to say that the quality of teaching we have now and over the past 6 to 8 years is better than any school I've ever visited all over the country. I also mentioned that we have the Golden Apple Award, and we have the little Golden Apple there. That is a state award, and we won this back in 2011, and you can't win successively. In other words, you can't keep winning the same award. So we won in 2011 for a program that we had here. And again, we've had many people nominated for these awards, but it's kind of like the Academy Awards for educators. There's this big event up in Seattle, so it was pretty special. We also have numerous recognitions from the district and state. So we've won many awards for being from the most improved school, but from OSPI or the state agency, to being a school of excellence, to being recognized by the Washington Post, one of the leading newspapers in the country, for having the most rigorous coursework here at Lincoln High School. So we've won that for 6 years in a row, I believe, and maybe 7 now. And then finally, we're frequent presenters at state and national conferences. And what that means is people have sought us out to come and teach them how we do our work here at Lincoln. So again, our results are fantastic and people want to know more about what we do. So school culture and climate. We have a t-shirt that we wear, and you can see students in the picture here where it says better. And by better, it means we do think that we're a better school than other schools. We're not trying to brag, but it's just a confidence we have in our ability to be successful with our kids. As I say all the time, we are an intellectual gymnasium and students come here to get smarter. But we're also better in the sense that that's a belief system we have, is every day we're going to be better and better. We're the Lincoln Abes, and we also say that stands for absolutely better every day. So that is an important facet to who we are, and we want kids to come into the school, and we want kids to have experiences in the school which reinforce the fact that by coming to Lincoln, they are going to get better and they're going to be better. We also feel it is important for all students to find their group. By group, it means the people that you spend the most time with in a constructive capacity. For some students, it's Key Club. For others, it's wrestling. For others, it's cross country. For others, it's volleyball. For others, it's ROTC. For others, it's drumline. And we have some remarkable programs here, and we want every student to find something that they do with other students. So, for example, when I was in school, I was a runner, and my running friends were the people that were most important to me still. Mr. Zamira was a soccer player. And I know that about him because he talks about the experience, and he talks about how important it was for him and the relationships he still has with those people. Miss Brown played volleyball and she played basketball, and those are things that are still important to her when she comes back here to Lincoln. She's a Lincoln alum, by the way. When she comes back to Lincoln and she's watching our girls form those relationships with each other just as she did when she was a student athlete. So we want every student to find something. It could be the school play, it could be the culinary arts program, it could be drumline, it could be band, it could be choir, ROTC, ASB, or student government, Key Club, sports, and the many, many clubs we have here, and we'll talk about that. Ample club and sports groups to join. We have every sport that all the other high schools have. We all have water polo, we all have basketball, we all have volleyball, cross country, track, baseball, fast pitch, and so forth. There's so many, and we'll talk more about that in the sporting section. But it's important for you to realize that if you want to do anything in a school, you can find it here at Lincoln High School. When it comes to clubs and activities, we have a gaming club, we have a magic club for people who like to play the card game Magic. We have Key Club, which means we have more community service that we do here at Lincoln than any other school in the region. We've won regional and national recognition for that. We have, again, like I mentioned, Drumline, which is both it's kind of a club and it's a class as well, but we have students who perform in the community all the time. So we have many, many things going on here. And the thing that I also like about it is it's not that you're just doing something. So if you're in your culinary arts program, you're not just cooking, you're learning how to cook really fine food. And a few years ago, we won the state championship and went to the national competition. So it's also achieving levels of excellence in ways that you never thought you could achieve. When you come in as a 9th grader, you don't think you're going to be a chef, but by the time you graduate, you've got the skills to be a chef if you want to do that program. In terms of culture and climate, it's also a school with really high expectations. When I talk to people in other schools, what they expect from their staff and what they expect from their students isn't enough. And I'm not saying they're bad schools, but I think those schools could be better. And here at Lincoln, our ethos is just time and time and time again that we have to be better, we have to be better. And this is important because I say all the time that the fate of the city of Tacoma depends on the work we do every day with our kids. So in other words, if we do a bad job as educators at Lincoln High School and the students don't graduate, then Tacoma's not as nice a place to live. But if we do a good job and the students graduate from high school, they go on to college, they get good jobs, it's a transformational experience for their family and for the community. So that's kind of how we do our work here at Lincoln High School. When we do student surveys, the survey found that the words like home and family are the most common descriptors of Lincoln. So when kids talk about what it means to be a Lincolnabe, they just say it feels like home here, or it feels like family. And they talk a lot about the life advice that we give students. So we're here not to be their parents, we're here to be their educators, but we also have relationships with students where I think that they get a richer experience by being here because of the relationships they form with each other and with the adults in the building. Okay, so facilities. This is one of my favorite slides. We have some really unique features here at Lincoln High School. I've had visitors from all over the world come here, and they just marvel at the beauty of the school. They've never seen anything like it. They ask, why do we have a clock tower? So Lincoln was built in 1913, and we have a clock tower because back in 1913, people didn't have watches they carried around. Some might, but back then the occasional city hall or school would have a clock tower or a clock. And then you'd have churches that would ring the bells to tell what hour it was. But we still have a functioning clock tower that has 4 clocks facing the 4 different directions of east, west, south, and north. And those are things that that are just of really strong interest to alumni who go here. They want to go up and see the clock tower and other such things. Underneath the clock tower is the auditorium, which is a world-class auditorium. We've had many great events there. But it's still in its original state from 1913 with nice, beautiful gold inlay, and it's just a really spectacular space. Lincoln Bowl is a world-class stadium with a rich history. I say rich history because we have had events like Elvis Presley perform there in 1957. Hopefully some of you know who Elvis Presley is. He was the biggest pop star in the world at the time. We used to have rodeos there back when it was a dirt field, which wasn't always great for the football team if they had a game the next day. It just kind of dirty dirt to be playing on. But we've also had Star Trek and other such great events here. Every fall we have the midnight relays or the midnight rally, and it's where cross-country runners run and jump across hay bales. Really exciting things happen in Lincoln Bowl. So our shops offer state-of-the-art equipment and hands-on for the hands-on learner. And a lot of schools don't have a shop area or they have limited shop area, but we have incredible equipment. So if you're interested in engineering, wood shop, metal shop, those are things that our students have learned here, and some go right into construction trades. We've had students go down to the Port of Tacoma and become longshoremen. Longshoremen make like $140,000 a year to start if they're there full time. So we've had a lot of students get out of here and make really good money based on the work in the shop programs. Classrooms have the newest technology with smart TVs linking the classrooms to the world. The school district has done a really nice job of upgrading all schools. So I don't think we're going to be different than the other schools here, but just know that if you come to Lincoln, you'll have as good a technology as you're going to see in any school in Tacoma. And then lastly, we will have new fields and tennis courts next year, and that's just for you. When we thought about who deserves this more than anyone, it's the 8th graders coming up to us next year. So up on top of Lincoln Bowl, we'll have a new baseball field, a fast pitch field, a multi-purpose field, which will be used for practices for anyone from the football team, the soccer team, the track team when the bowl is being used. And then we also will have 6 tennis courts. So athletics, I could talk forever about this, and it's not that athletics are more important, but they really are a great at-risk program for people who really need something to hook into in school. And we have a really rich history with many, we do have some national title winners, state title winners, and then a lot of league and district championships. If you come to our gymnasium for a basketball game or a volleyball game, you'll see the banners all over here. But the most important thing about our athletics program is we want to win, but we want to win the right way. So for example, students who come here, we coach up our students to be the best versions of themselves they could be. So for example, our football coach, our basketball coaches, our volleyball coaches, character is such a defining element of what they do. So you have to be a good citizen, and they teach students how to be good citizens with some of the program goals and aspirations they have, or the mission statements that they have. So that's why we see our football team, they shape the culture here at Lincoln High School. They're good young men who are really nice, kind, and supportive and respectful. The same is true with our cross-country athletes, our volleyball athletes, our basketball athletes, boys and girls. That's an expectation here. And for my coaches to want to coach here, they have to coach the right way or they don't coach here. We're not here just to win, but we're here to be competitive, but do it the right way. As I said, we have every sport that any school has in Tacoma Public Schools. But some of the things of note in recent years, these are all things that have happened since I've been principal. Alex Montgomery was a student here, and she's played in the WNBA. I think she had an 8-year career in the WNBA. James Mwara was the top-ranked distance runner in the country. And I'll say that again, Lincoln is not necessarily known for a distance running school, but James Mwara came here and he ran 2 miles in 8 minutes and 46 seconds when he was a senior. So to break that down, that is miles back to back in 4 minutes and 23 seconds, which in other words is running about 63.75 seconds per lap for 8 consecutive laps. Give it a try, it's really hard. We also currently have Julian Simon, and we have a number of the Simon family who have come here and gone on to play competitive athletics. But again, the Simons exemplify what I'm talking about, is they were 3 young men of character who are really great credits to their family and the community. And right now, Julian's playing at USC and his brother Jaden is playing at Colorado. So athletics are important, and if you're interested in athletics, get involved. And if you don't know of a sport that you think you'd be good at, give cross country a try. That's always a good one to try. Lastly, I'll mention our tennis program. This year we have a team going to state. We have a team that when our coach started, Min Win, who's also a Lincoln graduate, he had a losing record for a number of years, but bit by bit he grew the program. He's super dedicated as a coach, and again, he's winning the right way. And for the last, gosh, I want to say 5 to 7 years, we've been the dominant team in the district and the dominant team in the league. And that's boys and girls. So what he does with students who have never picked up a tennis racket, he coaches them up from 9th grade to the time when they're juniors and seniors are competing at state. So it's pretty exciting. Specialty programs. We have a number of programs unique to Lincoln. So Teach 253 is a program that we started here, and we partner with Pacific Lutheran University. And it is a pre-educator program. So in other words, the students are learning how to become teachers, and they actually go into classrooms at Whitman Elementary or Lister Elementary, and they work with students. And we have a number of students now who are off in college who've been through the program that are planning on becoming teachers, and they want to come back here to Lincoln to work. So this is a really fantastic program, and part of what we do in high school is trying to expose students to things that are of interest to them that may be of value to them in the future. So Teach 253 is fantastic. Miss Eganis, who does the teaching, is just 1 in a million. She's really tremendous. We also have a community resource center here. We were the first school to start this, and I think some elementary schools have picked it up. But we have taken a full-time counselor and had them, instead of working with counseling with students, they still do some of that. They run the community resource center. So we help clothe students, we provide hygiene kits to students, we provide school supplies to students, we feed families every week, we feed families during the holidays. We want to make sure that there's nothing that will get in the way of a student learning. They do have other responsibilities that they work on down there. They will host our community partners, and it's just a great place to be, but it's a very heavily trafficked place by students who, if they need something, they forgot something, even if they come to school and they've walked here in the rain and their coat is all soaked, we probably have a coat for them. So there are just some things that we do there that other schools haven't done. The Lincoln Key Club works with the Community Resource Center and provides more community service than any other program in the region. It's really a spectacular group of young people. And it's kind of one of those things where if you want to meet good people or good friends when you come to school, join the Key Club. Okay, it's a really great place to be. They welcome anybody. And one of the things that we talk to our students about all the time is the most important thing you do in this world is choose your friends. And if you find your friends in the Key Club, you're in a pretty good place. Lastly, our LINC, it's the Lincoln Interactive Network Center. It's our college access center with 4 college prep programs. So we have the Achievers program, which is with the College Success Foundation. We have Upward Bound, we have College Bound, and we have Trio. Plus we have a career counselor, and then starting this winter, we're going to be adding Hero back into the mix. And Hero is another College Success Foundation program, which many middle schools have. So we'll have 5 different people or groups that are going to be working with you, guiding you, advising you, in addition to your counselors, your teachers, your principals. It's a pretty fantastic place. So the LINC is a place to become very familiar with. So this is, I think, in many ways, the most important slide. If you want to know anything about Lincoln, it's what makes Lincoln special. And at Lincoln, we say yes to opportunities. So I'll tell you a few stories, but when somebody calls and says, hey, I have this opportunity, would you like to do this? More often than not, the answer is yes. And what I mean by that is there's some schools when they get the opportunity, they think about it and it's like, well, that's going to be a little extra work for us. I don't know about that. Well, here at Lincoln, we think, is it going to be good for kids? Okay, is it going to be more work for us? Yes. Okay, but if it's good for kids, we're going to do it. So for example, we've had Governor Gregoire here to speak to classrooms full of students. We've had Governor Inslee here to deliver a major speech on education. We've had representatives from the federal government. So Congressman Derek Kilmer has been here many times to speak. My wife, who's in the U.S. House of Representatives, Marilyn Strickland, will be here to talk to our seniors this year, to talk about the legislative process in Washington, D.C. We've had famous authors such as Roxane Gay, who spoke to about 600 people with Tacoma Reads Together. Plus, we also had Jason Reynolds speak here, and a number of other young adult authors, including the author of Dear Justice. So we've got a lot of great people who have come here. Our librarian is amazing and does a great job drawing people in and getting people here. We've had an acclaimed filmmaker here who came and showed us his film and then talked to the students about how to make movies. We've had professional athletes come here, from a pro soccer player, Mikhail David, who came here, to even bringing John Kitna and Lawyer Malloy and Eric Bowles and Tony Brooks, people who have all worked with us and been on our coaching staff and or guest speakers, to talk about what it takes to be an active participant in the NFL and have success in the National Football League. But most significantly, we hosted the president of China and his wife, which resulted in 100 students traveling to China in 2016. We've had multiple trips since then, and we're planning for more. But that's a good example because the president of China came here, and it took about 2 weeks of prep time to make that event happen. And I had many people say, man, I would never do that. It's like, well, 2 weeks of prep time was exhausting. It was probably more than we could handle at the time, but we figured out how to handle it. And at the end, we had 100 kids go to China for 11 days. They went to Hong Kong for 4 days. They went to Fuzhou, which is a sister city, for 2 days. They went to Chengdu for 2.5 days. And then they went to Beijing for 3.5 days. So it ended up about 11.5 days. They got to see pandas. They got to eat the greatest food in the world. They got to go see the Forbidden City and the Great Wall of China and all of these things. And that happened because Lincoln High School said yes. So if there are opportunities for us to provide students with great experiences, we're always going to say yes. Kind of goes back to that theme of better. Okay, we're going to be better every day. And if better means we're going to work harder for our kids, we're going to do that. So that's a very quick overview of Lincoln High School. And at this time, we're going to see if you have any questions. I do want to circle back and remind you that this will be something you could go back and watch again. You could share it with friends, but you do need to be aware of the timelines. You need to be aware of whether or not you need to apply to come to Lincoln. And I also want to be really fair to you. If you have any questions or you want to come see the school, please give us a call. Please send us an email. Come up. We'll make sure that we give you a tour. The middle schools will be bringing students up in the spring. But I also want you to make the right choice. Lincoln High School, for my money, is the best high school in the city. But the other high schools have great programs. They have great teachers. They have great athletic programs. They have great clubs and activities. They have interesting buildings. So you can find great places everywhere, but make sure you find the right fit for your student. Okay. So Ms. Brown, do we have any questions?
At this time, there are no questions.
Okay, so if you'd like to put a question in the chat, we'll stay on here for a few minutes. And if not, like I said, you can always email us, and I will give my email, which is perwin@tacoma.k12.wa.us. So if you'd like to email me and set up a tour or ask me any questions, please feel free to do so. Okay, and Ms. Brown or Mr. Zamir, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of things I forgot about or special programs you'd like to highlight?
You did such an excellent job. You can absolutely tell you've been here for almost 2 decades, sir. Awesome. Awesome. Yep. I will say I do appreciate all the shout outs to all of our different pieces here at Lincoln, because without all of those pieces, we are not the community that we are. And I think that's a huge piece for us, is to be embedded in our own community and just part of everything. Yeah, I just thank you.
Yeah, I do think that one of the things that makes Lincoln unique is we're really the one neighborhood high school. And what I mean by that, we're not just one neighborhood. I understand that we're Salishan, we're the east side in Salishan, we're the south end, we're a little bit of Hilltop, but we are firmly in the center of the community we serve. And Stadium kind of is, but then they spread out on the other side of the water. Foss doesn't quite have much of a community there, nor does Silas High School. They're just different places. The layout's different. So when they built Lincoln, they built us right in the middle of the community that we serve. And that really makes Lincoln special. We have great relationships with our partners on 38th Street, the various restaurants and the stores. We have a lot of community events here. So it's a place that's just a super active hub of the east side and south end community, and it's a great place to be.
We have a couple questions coming in.
Okay.
The first is, when are the tennis courts actually slated to start and possibly finish?
So my understanding, and we can circle back on this and then we'll find a way to communicate out to folks, is they've gone out to bid, they've got the specs, we have drawings, and I believe that they're going to be working this summer with the expectation that they'll be ready in the fall. That was the last that I had heard, and I actually have a phone call in to the head of athletics for the district to see if we have an update.
Excellent. The second question is, if my child goes to Sammy, Idea, or Soda, can they do a sports program at Lincoln if Lincoln is their home school?
If Lincoln is their home school, then you can absolutely do a program here. And that also extends to musical theater, because we've had some students who have gone to Soda thinking that they're going to have a drama program there, and they don't. So they've gone to Soda and then they've come up here to be part of our school plays. So it's more than just the athletics. There's some opportunities, if they don't offer it there, then you can also take advantage of it here.
And another question, a little bit more about our art program. I'm thinking not just regular Art 1 and Art 2 and the printmaking that Conklin and Dana do, but potentially all the art that is done in CTE. You know, we have laser cutters, and I mean the boxes, the jewelry boxes that are made with the cutouts in them, the stickers that are designed, the different things. So art doesn't just have to be sketching, but it is also goes across the curriculum into different creative venues. Is there something that you'd like to add that I may have missed specifically around our art program? I know Miss Conklin's amazing, and so is Mr. Dana. Yeah.
So what I would add is Mr. Dana also has a background in street art. So everything from murals to graffiti to other things. And he views it as a high art form, and he incorporates that into his work. The other thing I'd mention about art that I forgot is I mentioned in passing our drumline, but our drumline has been a multiple state winning drumline for the last 10 years. I want to say they've won state 4 or 5 times. They have performed all over the state. They're frequently on call by the mayor of Tacoma to come and perform for her. I think at the MLK celebration every year they're down there playing. So the drumline is also pretty spectacular. So while we wait for questions, I realize now that I forgot to have Mr. Zamira show we have a China video. And if Mr. Zamira, can you show that to talk about the rich programs we have, just to be an exemplary, an example rather of what saying yes can lead to.
Yep, sure thing. I'll pull that up.
Okay.
The seniors at Lincoln High School only have one more task.
We're just trying to get our graduation certificate.
For Abrana Romero Roca, the highlight of her senior year, that's easy. The field trip of a lifetime.
There's all these like huge buildings or like skyscrapers, but like right next to it, there's an old temple that's like 300 years old.
It was a historic group.
Getting up that Great Wall, that was so fun.
Never before had American high schoolers been the guests of the Chinese government, all expenses paid.
Definitely the pandas for one, because why not? They're pandas.
Oh, I rolled over.
The nearly 100 students from Tacoma's Lincoln High School spent a week and a half touring China. For many, it was their first international trip. Dozens hadn't even been on a plane before.
It actually felt really similar to a car ride, not gonna lie.
Black people are not quite known there, so they would just pull you over and be like, go take a picture.
Jackie Knight is off to Central Washington University in the fall, but the experience inspired her to also plan future trips.
Pursuing adventures like this make you want to, it motivates you to get to like a different level. You want to pursue something greater, you know?
Well, that was a pretty good memory, you know, taking pictures with everyone. It was cool. It kind of felt like a celebrity. I think it's just because they never, you know, I'm really tall, so I think that's the main thing.
Brandon Porter learned how seriously the Chinese take their education, something he says he and his classmates brought back to Lincoln.
A lot of people here just care about sports, but that's not really going to get them anywhere. But the schooling, that's what really matters, because knowledge is power, and that's really important.
I'm never gonna go back with all those 90 kids unless there's a reunion.
The Lincoln students know they were lucky, say they won't waste the lessons they learned, And they like to think the trip even inspired others back home.
I feel like it got rid of like part of our Lincoln O, where like, you know, you hear about it and you're like, oh, you go to Lincoln? Yeah, that must really suck. But then you're like, actually, we went to China. It just has that negative connotation, but here we are like traveling, and here we are being like the ambassadors for the United States.
Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
Yeah, and I want to speak to the Lincoln O, and that's something that started when I came here and back in 2004. When I started my job here, people would say, "So you work at Lincoln High School?" And I'd say, "Yeah," and they'd say, "Oh," and I'd say, "What do you mean by that?" And they would say, "Well, you know, isn't it scary?" And I said, "No." "Isn't it rough?" "No." And they just had these assumptions that were based on a reputation that was earned back in the 80s and the 90s. And we've gotten much better than we were when I started here, but I think it's important to recognize that Lincoln has changed its reputation, but a lot of people still have that O. But now I think a lot of people say it's the Lincoln O, like, wow, you go to Lincoln, that's great. As a student, you go there, that's great, because they've seen what we've done with all those things that I talked about, from the guest speakers coming here to the special programs we have, with the success we have academically, with teachers and everyone winning awards, and then to have it capped off with students going to China. And we were covered by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the South China Morning Post, the News Tribune, and we had King 5 travel with us and actually made a documentary, and they showed it on King 5. So our kids were celebrities not only in China, but here in the United States. So it was a pretty cool experience. Okay, so do we have any other questions? I think you're muted, Ms. Brown.
I did that. Okay, we have several questions. One is about accommodations. What accommodations are provided to get students to after-school sports programs, practices, etc.?
Okay, so most of our practices occur here on site. There are some that have not historically because we didn't have the facilities. So for example, tennis, we have a van and buses that would take them to Stewart Heights to do their practices there. But if we have courts next year, then they just have to walk over to the courts. The same is true with fast pitch and baseball. We do have some baseball practices we've had here, but if you've been to our fields, especially if you're a Lincoln alum, you know them well. They're these cinder fields, which I don't know if you play baseball. I have, and the idea of sliding on that field is not a pretty idea, or diving for a fly ball. So those should all be taken care of next year, so we shouldn't have to be taking buses to Sarah or other such things. The one sport where we still would have to use support for transportation would be golf, because we do not have a golf course here, and we will never have a golf course here. It just takes up too much land. So unless golf becomes this virtual thing with virtual driving ranges that we can put someplace, we have a bus or a van that takes our students and they go over to Meadow Park and they practice there.
And then the next question is about sports in general. What kinds of sports does Lincoln offer? Okay.
So let me see, you can both help me out. So we have, in the fall, we have girls soccer, we have volleyball, we have cross country, both boys and girls, we have football, we have swimming, and we have boys tennis. I believe I've got that covered. In the wintertime, we have girls and boys basketball, we have wrestling for boys and girls, we have, I believe water polo is in the winter, and if not, it's the other swimming season, and I think that's it. We do have bowling too. Girls bowling, thank you. And then we also have flag football, and I believe that's going to be starting up here soon, so that's for females. Then in the spring, we have boys and girls track, we have fast pitch, we have baseball, we have swimming again, we have girls tennis, and we do have golf in there, and I think golf is in the fall. So I think I missed that one, but I think that pretty much covers it. If I missed anything, I apologize, but we have the same complement of sports that all the other schools have.
Do we have a debate club, Mr. Irwin?
We've had debate before, but most schools in Tacoma do not have debate currently. We did take some students out to California for an urban debate competition one year, but right now, currently, we do not have a debate program.
And then the last is, could you speak to the language programs, the world language programs that Lincoln has?
Yep, excellent question. Thank you. Yeah, we have, so partly because of our experience in taking students to China, and also because it is going to be such a prominent country in the future, we do teach Mandarin here. We currently have 3 sections of Mandarin. And when the pandemic is over, I think that we'll be back up to 5 sections because we have a partnership with a group that provides us with a teacher. We also have Japanese, which is very popular, and Miss Bender does a spectacular job teaching that class. We have 3 teachers who teach the Spanish language, and those are all excellent teachers. They are all native speakers, and it's something that is of huge importance to our students. So they do very, very well in that language. In addition to that, we also do have an ELL program, and I know that's not teaching a world language, but it is. There's a lot of commonalities in terms of intersections between what happens in language arts classes, world language classes, and ELL classes.
Well, hold on, just popped in another. What kind of special education programs do we have at Lincoln? Okay. And how do they match up to other schools?
Okay, so it's going to be, so every school in Tacoma is going to have all, let me rephrase that. I know for sure that the 5 comprehensives, so Silas, Foss, Stadium, Mount Tahoma, and Lincoln are all going to have what we call LRC classes, or Learning Resource Center classes. And those are classes where students may need extra help in language arts or math, and sometimes they occur in classrooms, and sometimes they can also be pushed out into co-taught classes. So your student might be in a math class that is an algebra class, and it'll have their special education teacher in there along with the math teacher in there. So they're co-teaching a group of special education students as well as basic education students. We also have that happening in science classes and other such things. So everyone has LRC, but we probably do more mainstreaming of those classes than the other schools. We also have a program called RISE, and that RISE is something that most schools have. I believe all schools at the comprehensive level have, and that's for students who have some challenges with some social emotional issues. So they need to help manage their anger and other things. So they're taught their academics, but they also have social emotional time in which they're taught how to navigate the world. That's a super important thing for students because being a teenager is tough and your emotions can be hard. So if you have somebody who's got a skill set to help you teach those, that's great. Then we also have 2 programs that meet students who are differently affected. So programs that might run the range of what we would call developmentally delayed to autistic students, and there's a huge spectrum in there, and a lot of those students do have mainstream classes and or other experiences, but those are the programs we offer here. If you have special needs, you can call the district special education office to find out. So for example, I believe Mount Tahoma has a multi-ortho program. So that's for students who are physically dependent on other adults to help them make it through their daily routine. So if that's what you need, then Mount Tahoma would probably be the place for you, and then you can check with the other schools to see what their offerings are.
And then what about lunch? Is it open campus, Mr. Irwin?
Oh, that is such a tough one. And I say that with a smile on my face because I totally understand it. It is a closed campus. And that's hard because if you know the Lincoln community, you know that we have what we call it the taco cart, but we have the burrito van up on Tacoma Avenue and 38th. We have VN Dong on 38th and Park. We have the Torta place on the corner. It's hard. We have really good food all around the school. But the district wants us to keep students on campus, to keep students safe. And that is our goal, and I'm going to say that we're not perfect at it because we have 21 different exits at this school, and there are ways that students sometimes get off campus, but Ms. Brown, Ms. Samira, myself, plus 3 security officers, and then Ms. Rahman and Ms. Hendricks, so that is 8 of us, are outside and inside every day trying to make sure students are where they're supposed to be during lunch. Right now, if students are hearing if you're hearing complaints from students about lunches at middle school, they're probably really accurate because with supply chain issues, we don't have the ingredients to make the food that the students really like. A couple years ago, we started had a new provider of pizza, and the pizza was really good. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not lying. The pizza was really good. We can't get that pizza right now because of supply chain issues. So hopefully things will be better next year. But we always want students to come prepared with a lunch they bring from home, or we do have food here. So, but to answer the question directly, it is a closed campus.
So we have a few more here, and we have about 8 minutes left. So I'm just kind of keeping track of time. Can you speak a little bit to Running Start and Lincoln partnerships with the local community colleges? Okay.
So Running Start is a program that began in the latter part of the 20th century, and it was really a program in part designed to keep community colleges afloat. So they wanted high school students to come to community colleges, and it's a great opportunity for students to get an associate's degree or a community college degree for free. That's really great, but we also need to make sure students are very aware of the challenges and the differentiation of supports. So here, every adult is going to know your student very well, meaning their guidance counselor, the people in the office, the administration, and all their teachers are going to know them well. And then, like today, Mr. Zamira and I were talking about a student that he had 2 years ago, and he was talking about how much he loved that student, how great he was to have in class. So if you had Mr. Zamira as a 9th grader, he's going to know you when you're in 10th, 11th, 12th grade. He'll talk to you in the halls. That's just the way we are here at Lincoln. When you go to community college, you don't have those relationships and you don't have the support that you have here. So we've had many very bright students go to community college and perform poorly and actually not graduate from high school. So you have to be mature and be very driven to be successful there. But if you can do it and you're successful, we have a counselor here now, Ms. Tran, who's Lincoln class of 2015, and she got her associate's degree, still came back and took one class here, played baseball here, or fast pitch, played volleyball here, and then she went off to Gonzaga, got her degree, and then she came back to Lincoln to work here as a counselor. So it can be done, you can have great success, and financially it's a huge advantage to families if you do it. So most of our students go to Tacoma Community College, a few have gone to Pierce Community College, and those are the two that we have relationships with.
Thank you. Also now busing, what happens if you have to take the city bus and not a yellow bus?
So a couple things. If busing remains the same, and it seems like every year is different, but if you live within a mile of Lincoln High School, you're going to be walking. Okay, we're not going to have a bus for you. If you live outside of that, so for example, if you lived over on 45th and Roosevelt, you will have a yellow bus that will pick you up somewhere near your home. So that's where the yellow buses come in. But if you opt in, if you live in Lakewood and you want to come to Lincoln, or if you live outside of our boundaries, if you live over by Silas High School, you will have to take a city bus. So for the past 2 years, at Lincoln's urging, the district finally came into a partnership with Pierce Transit, and we now have bus passes for all the students here at school. So it is possible that you can live in another part of town and come to Lincoln High School, but you will need to get an Orca pass. And those are free, but if you lose them, then you do have to pay for an extra one, but that's usually like $10. And that's good for the year and it gets you anywhere. So if you want to come to school with it, that's great. But then if on Saturday you want to go to the mall with a bus pass, you get to use that as well.
Can you talk to the schedule at all right now? We're doing 6 periods every single day, but there's always an opportunity. I mean, there's always an option that there may be an alternating schedule. This is specifically asking what that might look like. Okay, so there's a conversation happening here at school, and it's a very deep and thorough conversation about whether or not we would change our bell schedule to go from 6 classes a day to 4. And the reason for that is 4 is easier for students to focus during the day. There are fewer transitions and disruptions, and then it gives them a chance to actually have 8 classes a semester. So you'd have 4 classes one day, and then you'd have 4 different classes the next day. And you say, well, that's 8 classes, that's too much. Actually, research says that kids, if they're focusing on 4 classes during the day, and if the teachers do an effective job of teaching, that's a better way to go in many cases. But just so you understand, our primary driver in the conversation is not whether it's going to be easier for teachers or this or that. It's going to be, is it going to lead to better instructional and learning outcomes for students? And if that will lead to that, then we'll have a vote on it as a staff, and that's the direction we'll go. But if we don't feel it's going to lead to better outcomes, then we're probably not going to do it, or definitely not. So we have one here about COVID protocols. Mm-hmm. Just specifically, are they the same across the district? Same, like yep, same as in all schools. We have to make sure that we have the appropriate spacing in all the classrooms. We need to make sure all the students are masked up. We have all of the protocols that you're going to see at the middle school they're at, you're going to see here at Lincoln High School. And the next one is, how do we deal with like relationships between kids that maybe are harassment, intimidation, and bullying, or other types of conflicts? Okay, so we take those things very seriously, and I've mentioned that being a high schooler is hard. Being in toxic relationships is hard, and sometimes it's a relationship that goes sideways between somebody who's your partner, that is somebody you've been dating or seeing. Sometimes it's between someone who's just mean, and they're having a hard time and they're just taking it out on you or your child, and none of those scenarios are appropriate. So we definitely take a very serious look at those things, and those can be things that happen here on site. And what I mean by that is somebody could be physically harassing somebody, pushing them in the hall, things like that. Well, the student will be disciplined that we bring in. They would be disciplined, they could be suspended, depends on the situation, the severity of it, and so on. These are also things that can happen
with cyberbullying. So it could be somebody who's sending rumors, or they're saying inappropriate things online, and if we have evidence that and they bring it here and it's affecting life at school, then we would act on that as well. And then lastly, we have some things we do here at school where we have like no contact orders, or things that we design as administration, where we make sure kids don't have classes together, they're not to talk to each other. And students are pretty good with those because they know that if they violate that, then we'll have to find another school for them. So it's things that we take seriously, both here on campus and then off campus if we can make a connection to it affecting students here on campus.
And then lastly, what are the hours of a Lincoln High School student?
Okay, that's 7:35 to 2:05. So right now the students come, buses are dropping students off starting about 7:10. All the students are probably in the door by about 7:25. We have a free breakfast for all students. The bell rings at 7:35, and right now they have 6 55-minute classes. It goes till 2:05, and then everyone has a half-hour lunch, but it's really more like a 40-minute lunch because they have a 5-minute passing period, 30 minutes of lunch, and then 5 minutes to get back. So that is a typical student schedule, 7:35 to 2:05. And we also, on Wednesdays, I will say, like all the schools, we do have a 1-hour late start. So if you're in Tacoma currently, and there's a 1-hour late start at your middle school, we have the same 1-hour late start, but we do start earlier than the middle schools.
And that does it, Mr. Irwin.
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending. We appreciate that. If you have any questions, again, you have my email address. You can always look up our phone number in the system and give us a call. But we will look forward to seeing you next year. Again, I think Lincoln is a great choice, but make sure you do your due diligence and make the right decision for your child. We think our school is the right decision, but again, if you choose somebody else, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you.